Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Book Review Wednesday on Fuel Your Legacy. Man, I need to get some awesome theme music, like some old librarian music or something for my book review podcast, because I just love doing these book reviews. So this week, I'm going to be reviewing the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I talked a little bit on the Monday podcast about it, and I'm just super excited. This book is another kind of life-changing book. It comes from a very specific perspective. So there's a book called, it's a mask book by Tim. Oh man, I'm gonna look up his name really quick. Lewis Howes. It's a Masks of Masculinity. That's the name of it. Okay, so Masks of Masculinity by Lewis Howes, and another great book. But he goes through in the different masks. One of the masks that sometimes people wear is the stoic mask. Okay, it's this idea that like nothing is too good or too bad, and you just kind of like are this super even keel person. And there are some serious benefits to this. Now, one thing I liked about the Mask of Masculinity is not to say that all of them are bad, but to use them when necessary and to your benefit. Once you know what you are underneath without it, how can you employ these different situations, what you need to use? Well, this book called The Obstacle is the Way is really, it's really just dialed in on all of the ancient Stoics and their philosophy and why they saw so much value in this way of being. Okay, so it's not really they're pretty good advocates actually of being a Stoic, and I think there's pluses and minuses. I know for myself, because of the childhood that I was raised with and the different experiences, I had adopted a lot of Stoicism in my life, and sometimes it's not good because people don't know how to connect with you. Sometimes if you are just so stoic, then people are like, does he even feel, right? And the reality is we do feel, but we choose what feelings to express. We're very, very intentional about what feelings we're expressing. And I kind of talked about this a few weeks ago where my income goes up and down. Rather than letting that affect me, I just say it is what it is and I move on. And that enables me to really progress and just compete with myself and do better and better every month. And so the idea of being a Stoic is really removing all the stories that you might tell yourself about a situation and say it is what it is. Now that's the kind of baseline of Stoicism. It's super simplified. If you want to learn more about it, go read the book for sure. But one of the things that in the book is talking about obstacle is the way and how we can turn every possible setback into something to our advantage, right? So he uses a lot of examples of like war because he's quoting some of these ancient Greek philosophers, Roman philosophers. Sometimes even he quotes and tells a story about Obama and different things that happen and how to react to something that might seem terrible, horrendous, and not good, how to react in a way that's really going to benefit all parties. And that is what I was able to find in this book being so cool, is that I've had many times in my life where something's come up and I was like, man, that kind of sucks. That's an obstacle. But rather than using it as an obstacle in my life and telling my story about how it's bad for me, I choose to tell myself a story about how it's good for me. So I'm going to use an example. Last July, so it's been almost a year, maybe June. It might have been June. I think it was June. I was part of a networking group, and this networking group is called BNI, and it's basically a group where a bunch of small business owners, they get together and they commit to each other that they're going to show up once a week to a meeting, and they're going to give each other and refer each other business, which is super kind, and like there's a fee for it and everything. There's nothing wrong with the institution, but essentially my career field, they didn't feel that the way I was marketing myself in the group was very helpful, right? And there was just a few people who didn't feel that way, but most of the people, when I reached out and talked to them, they were just fine with me. But there was 2 or 3 people who didn't like it. And so when it came time to renew, I was there for a year. When it came time to renew, they basically called me and they said, hey, Sam, you're not a good fit anymore. we're essentially kicking you out, right? They didn't say kicking you out. They said, we're not going to let you renew, but we're essentially kicking you out. And man, I was a little bit of a lost identity because I don't view myself as somebody who is hard to get along with. I am forward. There's no question about that. I'm direct, but I don't feel like that's a bad quality. And most people I know, they appreciate my directness. And so I got basically kicked out of this networking group. And I was like, crap, right? At the time, it was like 25, maybe 30% of my business, of my income was coming from referrals from this group. So that's a pretty big chunk. Like imagine right now yourself losing 25 to 30% of your income, just being cut, boom, gone, right? That's a big chunk. If you're making $75,000 a year on average, bam, now you're making closer to 58,000, right? It's just like so fast. And it's like, oh geez, I don't know what I'm going to do. I sat there for about a solid half hour and just felt crummy, felt bad for myself, was thinking of all the things that maybe I could have done different, even though I didn't know what I could have done different. All the reasons why it was my fault. I would start telling myself all these stories. It lasted about a half an hour. And then I was like, this sucks, man. I hate self-pity. I hate being the victim. I don't like being victim in my life anywhere. How can I choose this experience and use this experience to really launch myself into the future? And at the time, right, it was 25, 30% of my business. Well, after that, I shifted my focus. I said, okay, well, now I've freed up 2 or 3 hours of my Tuesday morning where I was meeting. What else can I do? Oh, I can go add a little bit more time into my religious affiliations. I can go add a little bit more time into my fitness. I can add a little bit more time into focusing on different aspects of my business to really help me launch into something that's going to be effective. And I allowed myself 30 minutes to really feel bad and victimized and all this stuff. And then I took power out of it. And I can tell you there was not a better decision that I made than to do that, because from that day to the future, my income has exploded. Okay. So all of 2017, I made a certain amount. Beginning of 2018, all of 2018, if you look at my average month in 2017, average month in 2018, I quadrupled my income. Well, this year so far, by halfway through this year, I will have earned more in the first half of this year than I earned in all of last year, right? So my income is compounding on itself, and it is fantastic. That I'm confident that would not have happened if I stayed in that group. I would have not thought to go get a different business coach. I would have not thought to network into different types of networks. I would have not thought to create my own events and become a public speaker, and all these things that have happened as a catalyst because I didn't have that opportunity. It was a small stage, and I was maybe a bigger fish in a smaller pond, and I was feeling I was doing good. When I got kicked out of that, I said, well, I have to figure out something else. And I went and I just had done a bunch of different things. My social media game stepped up significantly when I left there, right? All these things just like exploded for my benefit. So rather than allowing that obstacle and think, oh man, I'm losing 30% of my income, the very next month was the best month of my career. The month after I got kicked out of this thing was the best month of my career, right? That doesn't happen just by happenstance. That happens because when we get put in a place where our back's kind of against the wall and we feel like, man, we're coming up against this obstacle and we don't know how to get over it. Sometimes you just have to go around it. Sometimes you have to do other things to really launch yourself in. And that's what this whole book is about, is how can you change the obstacle into the way? How can you make the obstacle the thing that's really going to help you launch into the future? How can you make that obstacle one of the main growing things? If you think about weightlifting. So I didn't do weightlifting almost ever. I mean, I did a little bit, but not like consistently until about 6 or 7 weeks ago. My best friend, he's like, Sam, we need to get to go to the gym together, because we were both kind of hit and miss at the gym. So we're like, okay, we're going to be accountability partners. We're going to go to the gym. We started this new workout plan, and like my muscles are actually getting pretty big. Well, bigger. I'm a thin guy naturally, but my muscles are getting bigger. I'm growing. And here's the thing. If I never was lifting those objects, right? If I didn't put those obstacles in my way or on top of me or in my hands, obstacles to easy lifting, then I would never get any stronger. So legitimately, the obstacle is the way, the hard thing, that thing that you're struggling with, the thing that you think, or that you're getting depressed over, the thing that you just think is never going to change and it's hurting you and it's painful inside, all those things, those are the way to succeed. I explained a way to certain clients who have had some emotional trauma in their life. Okay. And this is not to negate or to diminish the pain and sorrow that comes from emotional trauma. That's not my goal here. But I do think it's important for us to use that emotional trauma. So how long do you think of the last time you were deeply offended, the last time you had an emotional response to an offense? Okay. Not just like a frustration where you're kind of yelling or something like that. That happens probably more often than any of us would like to admit, even to myself. But like when you feel like somebody really, really offended you, or when you feel like you just got given $1 million or you were $1 million, or somebody just looked at you and smiled and said, wow, you look amazing today, and you got the butterflies, right? These are those intense emotional experiences. Think about how long that was, like in seconds, okay? Let's be super, super generous and say it was 30 seconds long. I don't think it was 30 seconds long. I think it was like a millisecond of this super intense emotional spike before it kind of leveled out. But let's just assume that it was 30 seconds long. Okay. Over your 100 years of lifetime, I bet you only have maybe one full day's worth. Okay. So that is, I don't know how many 30 seconds. I forget how many seconds are in a day, but divide that by 30, right? So that's all of these intense emotional experiences you have. The funny thing is, as humans, we are emotional beings, and we base our life and the things we do and how we act off of these intense emotional experiences. And most of those are negative experiences. I bet less than 5% of them are these super emotionally positive experiences, and 95% of them are negative emotions. They're things that when you were injured, when you were hurt, when you were embarrassed, when you felt judged, when you felt rejected, right? That's where most of these intense emotional experiences are. And for some reason, we have this idea that we're just going to block them out. We're going to ignore them and never like try and forget them and say, oh, I'm moving on. I'm better. That happened in the past, but I'm a new person, right? Here's the deal. I think that those are your gifts from God. Those are the few gifts, 24 hours total over 100-year lifespan, 24 hours worth of gifts that you've been given. And 95% of them you're going to scrap because they're painful. What if you choose to tell yourself a different story about that pain and start to look at those obstacles as the way to success, as something to fuel yourself? What would change? How would you become a different person? How would you use that story and construct a story around this? It doesn't even have to be relevant, right? My business coach, he was scared of skydiving. And he's like, this is potential. I'm going down to my grave, right? I'm not going to go skydiving until I have something, a thought or an emotion to connect it to. So he put it off for a few years. Finally, he gets his purpose. He gets so clearly identified with what he wanted to be and who he wanted to be in this life that when he's up in the plane, he's flying through the air and he's about to jump off. He's sitting there in the door of the airplane. And he's about to jump off. He has to say in his mind, this experience right now, all these emotions, all this adrenaline, I need to connect it to this one thought, that the world needs him. And so as he jumps out of the plane, as he's flying through the air, screaming down through the air, before he pulls his chute, he's screaming, the world needs me. The world needs you, right? Because that's his message. He wanted to go so deep down into the core of his being that he could never forget his mission in life and his passion. And all of these intense emotional experiences, we have them. The question is, what story have you connected to them? And what story are you going to connect to them moving forward? And that's kind of the whole objective of The Obstacle Is the Way, is to help you connect a new story to all of these experiences and then train yourself to respond more positively when new obstacles arise. So go check this book out. It's going to definitely change the way you view a lot of things in life and the way you operate, because it's a way to really increase your positivity, because now everything is working for your benefit. There's meaning in everything for you. Not that everything has a meaning, not that everything is supposed to be the way it is, but because things are the way they are, what meaning can you get out of it that's going to serve you? And that's the key distinction. And the thing that's so important to recognize is, what are you getting out of your life? Not why is your life there for you, but what are you getting out of it? So with that being said, super excited for Friday's podcast again. Sam Taggart is just, oh man, the story that he tells about how he started, it's perfect for this obstacle is the way. And I'm just so excited for you guys to hear this, because I think it will give you a lot of compassion, but also help you recognize that that same situation, that same thing has happened to me in the past, and I crumbled. I did not stay committed because I didn't know who I was, but that's never going to happen again. I'm committed to living the life that I want. So we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.